worst nightmare of a soldier is not the roar of a falling bomb. It is not the whistle of an artillery shell tearing through the air above your head, nor the rumble of a tank approaching along the frozen road. The worst nightmare is the silence, the absolute silence of a snowy forest, where the only sounds are the wind passing through ice-laden pine trees and your own breath leaving. Your body is vapor and 40 degrees below zero. The silence that lasts 1 second, 2 seconds, and then the man beside you simply falls. No scream, no warning, no shot heard. He was standing and now he is not. And you look around searching for where the danger came from and find nothing but the white and silent forest staring back at you. And then you understand, with the frozen certainty that only exists when terror is completely rational, that there is something in that forest that knows exactly where you are, and that you have absolutely no idea where it is. In November of 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland with an arrogance that is only possible when a massive army looks at a small enemy and decides that size is the only factor that matters. The Red Army had more than 400,000 soldiers in the first wave, hundreds of tanks, heavy artillery, and all the logistical infrastructure of a superpower. Soviet planners estimated the campaign would last 2 weeks. What they had not calculated was the Finnish winter of 1939, one of the most severe of the 20th century. At 40 degrees below zero, engine oil froze solid metal mechanisms, locked and broke the bodies of soldiers killed, and open ground turned into ice. Statues within minutes and the roads flanked by dense forests transformed every motorized column into a line of stationary targets. The Finns knew that terrain because they had been born into it. And among all of them, there was one who knew it the way most people know only their own dreams. Simo He had been born in 1905 into a farming family in the Rotjärvi region, just a few kilometers from the invaded border. He was a small man, completely ordinary in appearance, the kind of person you would pass on the street without registering. He had served 1 year in the army and then returned to the farm, where he had spent the following decade hunting. Hunting in that region is not a hobby. It is a survival skill passed down with the seriousness of a trade, demanding patience, control of one's own body, and a precision with firearms that develops over years of daily practice in conditions that do not forgive mistakes. When the war began, Hidi presented himself with the rifle he used for hunting, a bolt-action Mosinigant. That in his hands was an extension of his own body. The detail that accounts consistently emphasize is that he refused to use a telescopic sight, not for technological reasons, by deliberate tactical choice. A telescopic sight reflects sunlight, and in a snow-covered environment, any reflection immediately announces a position. He fired with standard iron sights, estimating distance, wind speed, and ballistic correction entirely inside his own head. A calculation trained over decades until it stopped being conscious thought and became something closer to instinct. The process by which he made himself invisible was meticulous to a degree that is almost incomprehensible. He arrived at his position hours before dawn. He packed the snow around his rifle so that the shot would not lift the cloud of powder that would mark his location, and he put snow in his mouth to cool the exhaled air to the point where the vapor of his own breathing would not be visible. He froze his own lungs from the inside so that the act of breathing would not betray him. If you are the kind of person whose blood runs faster when you discover that strategy, and human willpower can be more devastating than any conventional weapon, hit that like button right now. Because what the White Death did in the forests of Karelia is one of the most extraordinary and disturbing demonstrations of what a human being is capable of when defending their own land. Soviet soldiers began dying with no identifiable pattern. They died warming their hands near fires that made them illuminated targets. They died in positions that seemed safe. Officers who tried to analyze the patterns reached conclusions that contradicted each other because he never used the same position twice and moved through the terrain in a way that made him appear to be in different places at the same time. The terror settled into Soviet units with the slowness of things that get worse the longer they go unresolved. The Soviet soldiers called him Belyasmert, the White Death, not as irony or as a formal code name, but as the only available category for something that killed without being seen, that could not be located or fought. Entire units refused to leave their trenches during daylight hours. The Red Army, which had marched in expecting easy victory, was psychologically paralyzed by a single farmer with a bolt-action rifle. The Soviet High Command responded with indiscriminate artillery. Entire forests were bombarded based on vague reports of probable position. He survived by moving before the shells arrived, using the terrain to predict where the bombardment would come from. He was always where the bullets were not, because he understood the logic of the attack better than the gunners executing it. On March 6th of 1940, after more than 100 days of operations, he was hit. An explosive bullet found the side of his face, destroyed his left jaw, and tore away half of his face. His companions evacuated him, believing he would not survive. He survived. He woke from the coma on March 13th of 1940, the exact day that Finland and the Soviet Union signed the peace treaty ending the Winter War. The coincidence, if that is all it was, has the quality of facts that seem written by something beyond chance. He lived to 96 years old, dying in 2002. He spent his winters hunting elk. When asked over the years about what he had done in the war, he answered with the brevity of a man who saw nothing extraordinary in what he had done. The number of kills attributed to him, more than 500 confirmed in 100 days, is a number that military specialists describe as statistically impossible, calculated in any way other than that of someone who never stopped and who had transformed the snowy forest of Karelia into an environment that was safe only for him. Leave your answer in the comments below. Do you think the legend of the White Death is proof that a single man can change the course of a war? Or was psychological terror his true weapon? Read through the comments, because that question divides those who understand war and those who understand human beings in ways that are worth reading. If you have the courage to dig up the coldest secrets that history tried to bury, subscribe now to the Shadow AI channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Because the stories the world prefers to leave buried in the snow are always the ones that most need to be told.